So about 8 years ago today, it's about the end of July. 8 years ago today, I would have been driving around Clifton Park on my way to like my third basketball practice of the day because our summers were super intense. And today's guest on the podcast would have been in my back seat, probably making some inappropriate 15-year-old jokes like you're known to do at that time. And we were probably blaring Drake or whatever was hot at the time. And today's guest is Kevin Huerter. You all know him as the guard for the Atlanta Hawks, who just are fresh off a deep Eastern Conference Finals run. Kevin, super pumped to talk to you today. Thank you for joining me, taking time out of your busy schedule. I want to reminisce. I want to talk about the NBA. I want to talk about your business endeavors. So many things I want to talk to you about. Thank you for joining me. Good to see you, my man.
Troy, my man, it's good to be on. Thank you for that. Was an interesting intro. That's
I always
the best intro I've ever gotten. So
I always change it up. My goal today is to ask you questions that you haven't really been asked about before. I'm not going to ask you about your welcome to the NBA moment, which was Kevin Durant like swishing a three in your face, or about what was it like the first time you played LeBron. No, we're going to talk about the nitty gritty stuff that the hardcores know about. So I want to first talk to you today about when. Let's go back to 2013. That was our last full summer playing together. Now, me and you were on the same team 3 years in a row. We grew up playing together, grew up down the street from one another. So we were always kind of around each other for a number of years. And it's so cool seeing where you are now, knowing that we have that history. But 8 years ago, if I would have told you at, lunch break of Quebec camp that we were probably working at, if I would have told you that, hey, Kev, you're going to go D1. You're going to go to Maryland, and you're going to be there for only 2 years. You're going to go to the NBA, be drafted in the first round by the Atlanta Hawks, and in one of your first – oh, by the way, you're going to make a couple $1 million in the process, and you're going to go deep into the Eastern Conference Finals, lose against the team that's going to win the finals, and you're going to play against one of the best players, if not the best player in the league. If I told all of that to you 8 years ago, what would you have said?
I mean, I would have signed up for that ride. On the spot. But I don't know. I feel like in a lot of ways I wouldn't have doubted you. But that's kind of just, my whole life. I've always tried to stay in the moment. So I feel like getting ahead of myself and thinking that far into the future, that's not really kind of how I live my life. And so at the time, all I knew was I love basketball. I was loving so far where it had taken me, all the friends that I've made up to that point in Clifton Park, playing for travel teams. I used to grow up and think the coolest thing was traveling to Massachusetts and getting to stay in a hotel and Ding Dong Ditch at night, and just all the things the game had already given me had been unbelievable so far. So I probably would have believed you at the time. I would have signed up for it and just kind of went along for the ride, just, again, seeing where my life was going to take me.
So had you ever considered at that point what you thought your basketball future might have been, whether it was the NBA, whether it was maybe just coaching or playing overseas or anything like that?
Yeah, it was one of those things that I couldn't – even now, I guess, in this point in my life, I couldn't ever see myself outside of basketball. And so I know I love the game. Growing up, I guess, in my own age level, I was always one of the better players, in our town. And then as I grew up, kind of learned one of the better players in the area. But it wasn't something I was thinking about, I want to go to the NBA. It was when I was growing up, I loved Siena basketball. And Siena was, all those guys were like my idols. And growing up around the game and being a ball kid, it was like, I want to go play at Siena. And then as you get older, things kind of change, but it wasn't something that I started to think about the NBA. I started to think about trying to go to college, in high school, trying to play for the USA basketball team. Everything just kind of came along slowly, and I only looked at whatever was directly right in front of me of trying to achieve it. And it's been a great ride, obviously, ever since.
Now, a lot of us on the same team, Hicks, Obi, Hardy, all of us, we would kind of like talk behind your back in a way around you and Tom's back and say like, how are they so good? Because the way that you got good when we were growing up was you got to be at the Y, getting up 1,000 shots every day in the summer. You've got to be playing over at the Commons, doing all your fancy dribbling drills. That was what we did to get good. And you and Tom were never there. And we were just like, how are these guys so good? Are they just that naturally gifted that they don't need to practice whatsoever? Because that was my impression of you guys. But then I come to find out via back channels that you and Tom were kind of like practicing in this secret gym or something that was somehow attached to your dad's business or something like that. Like, how did you guys get so good?
Yeah, there isn't a simple answer to that. And we went to the pickup, the fall league stuff. We were at that type of thing. I don't think we were as much. We didn't go to the YMCA as much, but Yeah, when we were growing up, there's this place we call the Info Label. It's off of Exit 9. It's if you guys know Mr. Dufort, he has a warehouse, and my dad used to rent out space in his warehouse. And together they built like a half basketball court in the back corner of it, trying to be like kind of hidden, secluded. It was meant to be a warehouse for a business, not exactly a sports facility. So they weren't allowed to have it in there. But so they put a half basketball court, and that was kind of just where we went. And we would go there late at night. It was our gym. We had the keys to it. As we got older, we grew out of it. Again, it was only really a half court. So it was great when we were kids. And if we had a travel game on the weekends, I remember we'd go show up there at 9 a.m., get 100 shots up, and go over to the gym and play our game at 11, whatever it was. And that was kind of our spot. We used Siena a lot. Obviously, we would go down to their gym. We used our driveway a lot. I remember in middle school, my brother and I, in the winters, we were getting up before the bus came. We were doing workouts in our garage, and Thomas had these platform strength shoes that he hated, and
right.
I hated doing pull-ups, and it was just kind of this whole workout that our dad used to make us do, and then go shower quick and make the bus. So there's a lot of time spent behind closed doors. I feel like everyone, to an extent, has one of those stories about what they used to do when they're growing up, how they used to get better. But it's a combination of a lot of different things that obviously a lot of people didn't always see.
Interesting. Okay, I never knew that. What was it like playing for your dad? Your dad was your coach primarily growing up for your travel teams and AAU teams. What was it like playing for your dad and then going home to dad? And I was on some of those car rides. It wasn't always pretty.
It was tough. I mean, he's still my coach to this day. He still texts me, before games, trying to give me a scouting report on the guy I think's going to be guarding. He's like, hey, this guy wants to pump fake. This guy's going to try to draw fouls. And he's still got his coach in him. So still to this day, he's trying to fix my shot, all the above. But back in the day, if anybody in Clifton Park or in the Capital District, if you know my dad, he's intense. And, he's someone that he isn't afraid to yell. He isn't afraid to tell you how he feels. He isn't afraid to be hard on you, get on you, whether he's your kid or not. So I guess growing up playing for him, being his son, being on the teams, he tried to treat us, I guess, like everybody else, expected the same out of us he would somebody else. And then we got to hear the private conversations in the car on the way home where he really let us hear it. But he always did a great job when we were growing up. He was able to always flip the switch. It felt like, he coached when he was at the games. He coached to some extent when we were in the car on the way back to tell us how he felt. And then we'd walk in the door, my mom would have dinner ready, and we'd all sit down at the table, and he became our dad. So he always did a great job of flipping the switch, but that doesn't mean he wasn't really intense. He's still intense to this day. I don't know if you want to go sit in a playoff game with him, but someone that I'll never take for granted, obviously, everything he's done so far.
Now, so we played Shen basketball together, which I don't know if you've obviously spoken to a lot more kids on the AAU circuit, the travel circuit in college, about what their high school experience was like. So better than I, but I would guess that there's not many high school basketball programs like ours where the off season was harder and more intense than the actual season. The springs, the summers, before school lifts, after school lifts, training sessions with personal fitness trainers and with basketball trainers and shooting machine sessions, which we went to a lot of. It was really intense and it was a lot, and the coaches were really hard on us. When you look back on that time playing Shen basketball, what were some of the things that you took away from that have set you up to where you are now?
I just think, I feel like I was taught to work at a young age, and that both came from my father, but that also came from, Shen, Coach D, and everything that the program brought. I mean, they taught you how to work. They showed you what hard working looked like, even though sometimes it might have been a little too much. As a lot of players look back and you compare it to other players' experiences, and at this level, other their high school experience might not be the same, but it taught you how to work hard. And that was something that you could never say is that we weren't in the gym. We weren't always prepared. We didn't do our homework. It was one of those things that Coach D kind of always, in a lot of ways, he forced you to do things and forced you to work hard. He forced you to be in the gym. So I think that's the biggest takeaway I take from it. I always remember a conversation Coach D had with me my 9th grade year. He told me he was going to be hard on me the rest of my career, and that if he wasn't someone that I didn't hate half the time, then he wasn't doing his job correctly, trying to make you better. So that's kind of been his MO. We have a great relationship to this day, but Shen basketball was a lot of fun, but that whatever the saying is on the back of the shirt, not working hard is unacceptable. I feel like every day was an epitome of that.
Amen. One of my favorite things about you is your competitiveness. You hate to lose, and the people who really make it are the ones that have that work ethic like we were developing, and the ones who are super competitive and want to outwork you and outscore you and all of these things. So I remember so many nights, Kevin, when we're at open gym that begins at 7:00. We do our workouts and then we scrimmage. We're supposed to be out of there by like 9. But if you're on Kevin's team and Kevin loses, Kevin doesn't like to end on a loss. So Kevin's like, nope, we're running it back. We're playing to 21 again. We're staying until 10:00 until I win. So that competitiveness has always been there. And I love watching it play out on the court as well.
Yeah, I remember. I mean, I definitely remember that. You can't walk out of the gym on a missed shot. You can't walk out of the gym on a loss. And I remember a couple times getting into fights with people about how they're talking about they got to go home and do homework. And I guess at the time wasn't an acceptable excuse, but you got to hate to lose. You got to hate to lose more than you love to win. I think everyone in the gym was kind of like that. I wasn't the only one. I think, everyone in the gym, there was really heated games. They're competitive, and something that I haven't forgotten at this point. I'm sure you haven't forgotten. Everyone was there, but those open gyms, those were a mess, to say the least.
Yeah. So a lot of people, when they, get to be of your stature, where people know them or tweeting about them, talking about them, household name, a lot of them tend to let that all get to their heads, and they kind of lose their roots. They lose sense of where they came from, the people that got them there. How do you try to make sure that you don't leave behind where you came from and the people that helped you out?
Yeah, that happens a lot. I think the easiest, I try to keep in touch with a lot of people back at home. My high school friends are still people that I talk to daily. My family are people I talk to daily. All the people that used to cover me in high school, all the Channel 10, the Channel 8, all the media people that, I try to talk to them over the course of the year, treat them the exact same. And just try not to let them get too far out of my life. And, Clifton Park, it's obviously it's where I grew up. I'll always have roots there, always have love for there. And, hopefully within the next couple of years, bringing this athletic facility, trying to bring camps to the area, continuing Kubex camps. And, there's a lot of different things of, we're hope to have my fingerprints still on the area in the 518. And I think a big reason is that is just not falling out of touch with people and talking to people daily. And it's something I actively try to do every day.
On a similar note, when you have these things, people knowing you've obviously got some money in your back pocket now. And again, you are a low key celebrity now. A lot of people let that get to their heads because there's so many people telling them how great they are and people looking up to them. And so a lot of people kind of lose their way. I was talking about this on a podcast a couple weeks ago where, for example, a band comes out with a new song, it goes to the top of the charts, and they're a one-hit wonder because they can't replicate it, and they let all of the adoration and success get to their heads. So how do you make sure that you don't let any of this outside chatter telling you how great you are and how great your game 6 was, whatever, and make sure that you stay true to who you are and being humble and all that good stuff?
Yeah, I mean, it's for me, nothing's changed. Every time I feel like I reach a goal of mine, you set a new one. There's still so many personal goals of myself that I still want to achieve, and that's something that drives me every day. And we make it to the Eastern Conference Finals this year. Next year, in my head, I'm like, let's make the finals. Next year, let's win it. Let's do the whole thing. For me, it's always as a professional player, as anyone who's working in the world, you have a contract. You got to show up to work, and that contract at some point runs out. And it's, how can you get the next contract? And for me, that next contract is coming up. And so that's something that's always on my mind. And growing up when I was in high school, it was, like I said, it's, what's college look like? Let me work hard. Let me get to this point. And you get to college. And for me, I want, play in the summers. How can I play on this basketball team? I played for a USA team. And then sophomore year, it's trying to win more in Maryland. And then finally you get to a point where I was looking at the NBA, and it's so everything is always a step. And I feel like that's how I've always tried to look at things, are steps and not skipping steps. And, at this point in my life, obviously I think at some point in my career, I'll be able to look back and feel proud of everything I accomplished, but I'm not at this point of trying to look back at things I've done. There's still a lot of things I look forward to still trying to achieve.
For you right now, what do you see as the biggest holes in your game, the things that you need to work on to try to make sure that you can do everything in your power to get the team back to the finals next year?
Yeah, continue to try to be, a complete player. In a lot of ways, the playoffs were eye-opening for me. Being on the court, just the level of physicality, the level of players. In the playoffs, the benches shorten a lot, so every team's best players are on the court for most of the game, and just trying to reach a new level. Just trying to overall just become a better player, a better defensive player. Continue to work on my body. Some of the bigger wings that I was guarding this year, the Tobias Harris, the Ben Simmons, and being able to physically stay with those guys and offensively, probably become a little bit more consistent. Obviously, I had a couple games where I looked good, but then games where I didn't feel like I played as well. So just overall improving consistency. So there's a lot of things. Again, it's not always a simple answer. I feel like it never really is with me, but overall game, again, it's something I'm looking forward to continuing to work on this summer.
There's a lot of skills that you can see. You can see a person's shooting ability, passing ability, but one thing that's kind of hard to gauge is confidence. And you have always been a very confident player. I mean, any time that I have watched you play growing up, you believe that you are the best player on the court. You might not actually be the best player on the court, but you always believe that you are. You want the ball in your hands. You want to take all the shots. The NBA now, obviously, the level of competition is much more increased now. So you might not be the best player in the court. So how do you make sure that you are staying confident and are still trying to have that same mindset that you always have?
Yeah, I feel like that started young. And I'm sure everyone has this who's going to listen to this. I feel like there's certain things that you hear, there's certain quotes kind of throughout your life that you never truly forget. And it's kind of just something, for whatever reason or not, in certain moments, you always go back to, at one time, this person said this to me, and you think about it. For some reason, that can kind of carry with you for the rest of your life. And I remember it started with my dad. I remember when I was younger, I think we went to a game and I was nervous, or I was talking about how I was nervous, or maybe after the game, I forget the situation, but he just told me, he's like, confidence is all about preparation. He's like, if you're not confident in your preparation, if you didn't prepare for a game, you didn't practice, of course you're not going to go into a game confident. So if you did prepare, if you practiced the game before or the night before, if you've been working towards this goal, whatever it is, that you should have all the confidence in the world because you're prepared for it. It's kind of like a test, and that's what he alluded to. And then I fast forward a couple of years, and I remember with Coach Chris Padula with the Shen baseball team, and this was a totally different sport, but it's kind of something that I think about now in the NBA. Is he told us we were getting ready for, or I think it was a sectional playoff game, or I might have been a junior or something, and he told everyone on the team that you can't be too excited the whole day. Like if you're too excited, you're going to be worn out by the time it's game time. And so I feel like in some ways I always think about that, of having this calmness, of almost not allowing myself to get excited for a game until you arrive at the game, until you're for me in my head, like, allowed to be excited for it. And so if I know I'm going in everything, if I know I'm going into certain situations and I practiced for it, I prepared for it, something I've worked towards, and then if I keep my excitement to a minimum until actual game time, then mentally I feel like I'm usually in a pretty good spot when that game's ready to start.
Like I said, you are very competitive, because of the length of the season, and especially in your first couple years, there was a lot of losses. There was a lot of lack of success, which was something that you weren't used to. So how do you deal with all the adversity and the struggle that has been thrown your way so far?
It was tough. So it was probably trying to find positives in areas of your life that you usually don't find positives. And if you try to treat your whole outcome of what was happening on the court, and you kind of let that control your mood, it was going to be a long 2 years. It really was a long 2 years, but it was kind of something that you found love in trying to be a better player, trying to get better, truly believing in the process that we're in of a rebuilding team, and winning was going to be coming in the future, and everything was about building for our future self. And so that was something that every day you're coming in, even though you're losing, you're coming in still trying to win the day, still trying to get better. But it was tough. I mean, that was honestly, it was one of the two toughest years of my life. Your first 2 years of the NBA should be your best 2 years, but when you're losing that much, it's just tough. I don't know. There's probably a lot of people that have been through it, but it's not enjoyable. And again, you got to kind of try to find areas of your life to find joy that you might not usually go to when you're in a winning spot.
I want to ask you about something that I feel like not enough people talk about. People think that the life of a professional athlete is super glamorous. People know you've got money, you're going out on the town, and people want to be around you, et cetera, et cetera. But like, you're playing an 82 game season. You are on the road all of the time. You're playing on Friday and Saturday nights. Like, say what you want about what you do for a living, but you know, that's valuable real estate as a young person. Like, I think the life of an NBA player is quite hard. So the 82 game season, however many months long that is, what is the grind physically and mentally of the season like?
Yeah, grind is the only word to describe it. Especially it really is. It's a marathon. And the tough part about being an NBA player is that there's very little balance in your life. You know, you go to where for 8 months out of the year, you're super serious. You're playing almost every other day. Your diet's super strict. You know, your social life is limited to usually 1 or 2 drinks, and then you're going to bed if you're smart about it. And it's a long year. You look forward to the mini breaks. You look forward to the All-Star breaks. You look forward, in some ways, when you're losing, you look forward to the off season, that there's just very little balance. And then all of a sudden you get to the off season and you have 5 months of summer. You don't have to work, and you can pick your schedule, and you can pick and choose when you want to be social. And for the most part, you can be social as much as you want to. And so it's a big balancing act of how you got to look at it. But I mean, during the course of the year, it was tough. My first year in the NBA was for my own age group. All my friends were juniors and seniors in college. And so, like you said, it's a Saturday night, I'm in Oklahoma City or I'm in Boston or whatever. And my Snap stories are everyone out, everyone posting everything. Yep. And it's all my buddies. And so, of course, I'm sitting like, damn, in my hotel room, we got a game the next night. I'm watching Netflix. And I was like, damn, like I really want to be out right now. And then the same thing happened the next year. And then all of a sudden you get to the summer, and again, it's just a huge balancing act of just to the total extreme. So being an NBA player, that you talk about the attention and everyone trying to look at you, I wish at some point there was an off switch where at some point you can get away from it all, and that's where it's great to be in your own house. But it's never something I want to give up. Again, this is something you kind of dream for. You get to this level and you take everything that comes with it. Obviously, sometimes you wish it turned off, but at the end of the day, it is a glamorous life. It's you love to do it. You know, you're traveling around the world, getting paid to play a game. And so you got to keep that mindset, even though it gets to be a grind, just like anything else. It is a job. And when you get to game 60 and you're on the road for your 7th day in a row, you're reminded that it is still a job. It's not always just a game. So there's a good and bad, just like everything.
And there's probably a lot of people, this usually just happens with professional athletes or anyone who gets big in a quick amount of time. A lot of people maybe from your past or who don't know you or from the new town that you're in, they just kind of like start trickling in, and you're like, and they text you, they track your number down somehow, and you're like, I haven't spoken to you in 12 years. Like, I helped you out with your homework once, and now you want to come visit me or something like that. What is that like, trying to, separate out who is actually important in your life and actually means something to you, and then just someone who just like kind of wants a piece of you,
Yeah, that happens. For me, I try to be nice to everybody. If it's a text, it's a quick text back. It might not be a full conversation, just trying to hit them back. For me, a lot of that attention comes in the form of tickets. I'm in a town, my family member, my friend that I haven't seen or hasn't been to a game in 10 years wants to come to a game all of a sudden. I let my parents handle most of that. I kind of tell my dad, I'm like, hey, if we're on the road in New York, I got 8 tickets, everyone's texting you, I'm not dealing with it, and they'll kind of deal with it for me. And anytime people come to Atlanta, I can get it usually as many as they want. But my family helps out a lot with that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, it's people are just trying to be nice. They're trying to be in your life. They want a small piece of you. They want a small piece of the ride, and just try to treat them with respect. Be nice to them. It's at the end of the day, everyone's human.
What was it like putting on a show at a sold out Madison Square Garden just a couple weeks ago?
That was fun. MSG is everything they say about MSG. It's like the first number one thing. MSG is the mecca of basketball. And I think every player who's ever played in MSG has said at some point, it's the mecca of basketball. It's the greatest stadium in the country. And that's like what you're supposed to say.
Yeah.
And I feel like once we got in the playoffs, because we played there during the regular season for the 3rd year. Once we got in the playoffs, it was like, okay, this place is actually different. Like, this is unlike any other arena I've ever played against and played in against a crowd. But like, it was absolute mayhem. Like, we were running on the court 20 minutes before the game in our own arena 3 games later. Like, it was half full, people trickling in. we were walking into the game and it was the fourth quarter with 2 minutes left. It was just chaotic. It was loud. We're getting booed as we're running on the court, and it's just like I got chills running down my arm. That was awesome. It's an atmosphere. It's not. It's a lot of fun to play in, even though it's not a lot of fun to play in.
Yeah.
But and I tell all my buddies now, if there's one thing you need to do in sports, you need to get to a playoff game at MSG, because it's the craziest atmosphere I've ever been in. I honestly don't know if it could be topped.
I feel like you might thrive in that environment. I feel like you could play up a villain role or play like you get better if people are booing. If you hit a three, you might just be like, come on, louder. Let me hear it. Let's go. I feel like you would thrive in that.
It was like my legs for that game. I had like the best legs of my life. I felt like I could have like kissed the rim with how high I felt like I was jumping, just with all the adrenaline. It's like the energy in the building, you feed off of it, and you feed off of that hate in a lot of ways. I'm sure they fed off it in a different way, but yeah, we went into that building and you have 18,000 people who are hoping you're losing, and you get to be the guy that swirls every night and goes in and wins. It's fun being that villain. You can't let it eat you alive. Obviously there's people that let that happen, but if you flip the switch a little bit, it's tough. I mean, I literally just remember that feeling. We were on the court getting booed by 18,000, like 20 minutes on the shot clock for warm-ups, and I just got like the biggest goosebumps running down my leg, and I was like, I'm ready to go. Like, can we start now? It was chaotic.
Oh, I remember those days of being in the Shen gym and just being so hyped that I feel like I can dunk even though I can't. Those are the days. So obviously Atlanta is your favorite place to play. So let's say, so obviously Atlanta is your favorite place to play, but what is your other favorite place to play? Like when you're on the road, where do you just absolutely love going, city or arena wise?
Yeah, I think that's I try to do as a rookie. I try to appreciate arenas. I try to go into different arenas and in some ways see how like the character and the aura of the arena takes form of whatever city we were in or whatever team we were on. And so a couple on like Golden State doesn't play in Oracle anymore. Golden State Oracle Arena felt like MSG, but on the West Coast. Like it was a really cool arena that they don't play in anymore. I love going to Boston. Boston has a nice atmosphere, nice arena. There's certain arenas, every NBA arena feels big. Like the ceilings feel big, the baskets, like the fans feel so far away behind the basket. It's kind of something we have to get used to. Even in college, the random, out of league games that you play in an NBA arena, it is an adjustment. But there's some arenas that just feel more intimate. They feel like, fans are a little bit closer to the court. It feels louder, and it doesn't feel as spread out. And like, the Pacers are one of those arenas. Celtics, the Knicks, that old Oracle Arena was really cool. In some ways, Miami kind of feels like that.
Yeah.
So those are the ones I think I remember off the top of my head, just kind of like the crowd atmosphere. But another one, I think Dallas. Dallas is one of those that feels huge. Like you walk into the arena and you kind of look up and it's just like massive. And they, I don't know what they sell it out, but it felt like when we were playing there, they had a great atmosphere. So it's something I feel like I get out there usually early to the court and I just kind of sit down and I kind of take it all in. I look around, try to feel out the atmosphere, just because in some ways you try to remind yourself you're in the NBA and you try to appreciate it for a second.
I love that. You always got to be in the present moment and just like kind of taking a step back, removing yourself from the moment and saying like, whoa, this is pretty cool. I'm pretty grateful that I get to do this. Why me? I love that. What is a typical, when you're on the road, what does a typical post game look like for you guys? Like what's the move?
Post game. So say we're, most of the time we fly right home after any game. The only time we'll ever stay over the next day is if we're on a road trip. So if we play New York on a Monday, we play Boston on a Wednesday, and we usually stay in New York and then fly the next day. But if we finish Boston that Wednesday night, we finish the game, everyone ice baths, you have your media. This year with COVID, you had to eat at the arena before you left to go to the plane. So everyone eats. And so usually you're leaving the arena around 11:30. You bus over to the airport. You check in. We're on a private side, so we don't have to go through security, which is great. And you get on your plane, and most of the time, on average, you're getting home. You're landing the plane at 2:15. I'm usually walking the door of my house around 2:30. Sometimes on bad nights around 3. I usually get home and I snack real quick before I go to bed, and then go to bed and you wake up and you go to practice the next day. So it's a lot of late nights. In a lot of good ways though. You do get a lot of afternoon naps. If we're home, you always meet in the morning. We shoot around, you have practice, and then your afternoons from usually 12 or 1 to 4 are open. So a lot of guys, I think every single player in the league takes a nap in the afternoon. But you're up every night usually. I don't go to bed most nights before 3 during the season.
Gosh, as someone who goes to bed now at like 10 o'clock, that life sounds miserable to me. I don't know.
It's like, I want one day to wake up in the morning and like not feel tired, like not feel tired. And there's someone, I know that it's like every job in the country, but it's like, I would love to just go to bed at 10 and wake up at 9 or 8 or whatever and like not feel just so tired.
Are you a coffee drinker or anything like that?
I'm not. I like refuse to be a coffee drinker for the sole reason of refusing to be a coffee drinker. Because every single person in our line of work drinks coffee. Like some people, coaches are drinking like 4 or 5 a morning cups. And I solely don't drink coffee just so I can say I don't drink coffee.
Wow.
There's no reason.
You know what? I respect it. I used to have that belief, and then I had coffee, and now I absolutely love it. It's like my favorite thing in the world, although it does stain your teeth pretty badly. So maybe it's for the better that you don't do it. I want to ask you one more question on the basketball stuff before we move on to some fan questions and some business stuff. Behind you, for the people who are listening to this, behind you are 3 framed jerseys: Vince Carter, Dwayne Wade, and Kobe Bryant. Obviously 3 legends of the sport. You actually played with one of them. Vince Carter was on your team for a couple of years. I want to ask you, what was it like? Because this is such a weird workplace dynamic. Because I mean, if you just think about it, hey, you're an NBA player in the workplace. You get to the Hawks at what, like age 20, 19, 20? And you're
19.
At age 19, and you're playing with Vince Carter, someone that you grew up watching. Like, you are baby Kevin on the Siena sidelines watching Vince Carter be a star doing the dunk contest and whatnot. And then he's your teammate, and he's twice your age. What is that like?
It was weird. I remember I was in our practice facility, and I was like at my locker changing, and all of a sudden, like Vince walks in. It's like, "Hey, what's up? I'm Vince." And it was kind of like a turn. I was like, "You're Vince Carter. Like, you're not Vince. Like, you're Vince Carter." And I remember I walked in. It was like the most like casual meet and greet where I'm just like was so ready to meet. I didn't know when he was going to be in the facility, but I remember it was kind of like, maybe like today's the day I get to meet this guy. And he walked in. He was like, "Hey, what's up, I'm Vince?" I was like, "Kevin, what's up?" Like, I'm Kevin, like, I've been waiting to meet you. So he was so casual about it. And he really was. He was kind of like the dad of our team. There was such an age gap between him and everyone else. But he was such a nice guy. He's a big golfer, for people who don't know. He was bringing his clubs on the road. Him and Ken Bazemore, they were golfing, mid-afternoon. A lot of times on off days. He was, in the film room. He was great. He had stories, obviously, as you can imagine, about everything and anything about life. But great guy to have around, a great guy to know. Still to this day, we'll catch him, we'll golf sometimes. But I just always remember that first initial meeting was just like, "You're Vince Carter, you're not Vince." Like, what?
I absolutely love that. So good for you. So pumped about everything that you're doing. It's so cool hearing Bill Simmons talk about you on his podcast, watching your name come out of Charles Barkley's mouth on halftime shows. That's something that, like, in my wildest dreams, I never would have imagined. So super proud of you, and also super proud of these business ventures that you've got going on now. So you, your family, and a couple other families in the capital region where we're from are starting up Impact Athletic Center. I believe it's set to open later this year. Basically what it is, for those of you who don't know, it's going to be this huge indoor sports facility. There's going to be volleyball courts. There's going to be college and NBA size basketball courts. There's going to be a state-of-the-art fitness center. There's going to be a cryotherapy place, which is like using ice to make your body feel better, essentially. A whole bunch of really cool things that are happening. Super pumped that you are doing this. When did this idea first come to fruition, and how did you know that you want to be a part of it?
Yeah, I think this was something that we talked about for a couple of years and someday of wanting to do. And then one of our partners in it with the Litchfield family, they had a similar type of idea and wanting to do it on the volleyball side. And obviously, my family on the basketball side, and with our connections, we felt it was a great matchup, great pairing. We found great plot of land that we could do it in Clifton Park. I think that was something that was also really important to all the parties involved, was finding a way to do it in our own town. And just something we felt like the area needed. There's a lot of times growing up where we're trying to sneak into gyms, and I feel like high schools and elementary schools, there's so many rules and so many protocols that go into trying to get in a gym, and
right.
Everyone's always fighting for gyms that, we were always traveling out of the area to go to facilities like this. And it was like, why can't we have a facility like this, in our area? And it was something that I feel like we don't have, especially in the basketball side. On the volleyball side, there's a couple of baseball things that in our area that have it. Hayner's being one right in our backyard, and just really excited by it. Going to offer a lot of different things, trying to be available to the elite athlete, trying to be available to the athlete that's just beginning. Just kind of for everybody, a way to give back. Obviously, another way to give back to the community, and something that we wanted to be a part of for a long time, and we're really excited to bring it to the area.
You saying Shattuckon Elementary School doesn't cut it for basketball practice?
When it takes like all these forms and everything to get in there, and the principal has to okay it and whatever it was. I remember like everything it took. We were trying to sneak in. We were going to Coach D's after school, and he had Tasago sectioned off. But if daycare went 20 minutes late, we try to walk over and go to Scano, and then 2 minutes later, the principal or whatever of Scano would walk in and kick us out because we weren't. And it's like, I feel like growing up, I always ran into that problem, and then I feel like people are always fighting over gym time, trying to go to the YMCA, keep that out, and then hopefully again we can be a place for all level of an athlete.
Yeah, Coach D was and is a teacher at Tasago Elementary, which is in the Shen School District. And so to your point, I wouldn't be able to go to the gym after school. And he had this machine, which you used as well, the Vertimax, which you guys, I believe, took home for a while, which was great, by the way. It's basically a platform, and you strap all these resistance bands to you, and you just kind of jump up and down, and it weighs you down. It's like works wonders for your vertical. And so I would walk to Tasago after school to use the Vertimax to Coach D's classroom. I would set up the Vertimax in his classroom and jump up and down as students, like little 8-year-olds, are passing by me. Oh, don't mind me, just jumping up and down in my teacher's classroom. So I'm very glad that the 518 is getting a spot like this.
Exactly. I feel like everyone's got a story like that. So hopefully those can go away. You can just come over to Impact. We'll have a Vertimax for you. We'll set you up real nice, whatever you want.
So financially speaking, everyone forgets, like, you're so young. I mean, you're still only 22, and you've been in the league for a couple of years at this point. And so being in college, only getting 2 years of a college education, you kind of bypassed a couple of years of education. So you're still super young, and you now have to basically adult a lot. I talk a lot on this podcast about adulting. You've kind of had to grow up before the vast majority of us do. So how do you make sure that you're making sound financial decisions when you have a lot of money and can easily spend that on things that you don't need?
You got a good team around you. You got people that aren't afraid to tell you not to spend on certain things. You talk about adulting. Today I get off the phone with my accountant and my financial guy, and I'm talking to them for an hour. It's kind of like, 23. I feel like there's not a lot of people that have to plan for the next year of taxes and then how that's going to impact their things they're spending money on. But got a great team. I feel like mindset-wise, I try to look at my money as that money that needs to last me for the rest of my life. So hopefully I never have to work again. Not something that can last me in the moment, and I could have a few good weekends in Miami. So it's kind of my initial mindset, trying to make this last, trying to set up for bigger and better things, trying to set up for ways to help pay for places like Impact and different things do like that. So it's a lot of important stuff to spend money on. And obviously I got a lot of good people around me that help me do that.
What's the last thing that you really wanted to buy that the people around you wouldn't let you buy?
I already have a car, so it's like I'd love to get another one. Probably right now is not the best time to do that. Vacation spots. I'm someone I want to see the world. I want to travel a lot. I want to experience a lot of different things. I don't want all my money to go on material objects. So just trying to spend on experiences and trying to go on certain occasions. Someone's like, why don't we wait a couple of years to do that? And those are just a couple of the few. Where's
one place that you haven't been around the world that you really want to go to?
Thailand, somewhere I want to get to. There's a million. We have Bojan Bogdanovic, who just came to us, listed like 10 off the top of his head of places in Europe I need to get to. Gallo, who's from Italy, gave me 8 places that I need to go to in Italy. I've flown through Europe, but I've never been to Europe. I've been to Egypt.
Really?
I've seen the Great Pyramids. I've been to Egypt. I've flown through Germany, so I guess I've seen Germany from a window, but I've never truly been to Europe. So Barcelona, obviously Paris. There's places all on the coast, and Thailand, and right now the Olympics are in Japan. I'd love to go to Japan. I want to go to Australia. There's so many. There's a million different spots that I want to get to someday, and it's going to take a long time to hit all of them. But
yeah,
you get to go to a bunch.
Oh, I absolutely love that. I love traveling. We'll talk later more about it just because there's so much good stuff there. But to wrap up here, I do have some fan questions. I have solicited a couple questions from some fans, so these are kind of all over the place, but I want to run by you. So I guess this kind of goes to the money thing. What was the first thing you bought when you signed with the Hawks?
First thing I bought.
Parents a house, mom some earrings.
I guess my first purchase was like for my apartment. My first, I guess, monthly payment, whatever, down payment for that. I waited a year, so I didn't get a car for a year. So my first big purchase would have been a car, and then a year later, I guess I got my house. So those were the first two, but it took a little time to get there.
What types of obstacles did you encounter growing up as a ginger?
Oh, not many. I mean, other than the occasional comment here and there, but usually not many. I feel like in a lot of ways it was kind of like, why is this ginger so good at basketball?
Yeah. I feel like people didn't
like, who the hell is this guy?
Yeah, people didn't really make fun of you that much because like you backed it up. Like you couldn't really make fun of Kevin Huerter.
It was like I got lucky. I was like tall, so in school no one said stuff. So it was, I didn't get too much of it.
Yeah, that's good. What is the main thing you learned from your high school coach?
We talk about just how to work hard. There's no shortcuts to working. That was a pretty simple answer. Always had us in the gym, forced you to work out, not forced, but gave you every available opportunity to work out, and then probably told you about it if you didn't go to those opportunities.
Yeah. Open gym, it's your choice.
Open gym, just don't show up on tryout day.
Right. How'd you meet your girlfriend?
Met her at school. It's funny. I met her the first night ever. I was out of college. I met her, and then we didn't really talk for about a year, and then like we're kind of together for a little bit that summer. Then talked, then broke it up for about another year. Then officially got together when I was leaving. So I met her the very first, and then there was kind of like some time between when we were together for it.
Love that. Good for you guys. You guys now have a house together in Atlanta, so super pumped for you guys there. Do you have any pets?
We got 2 dogs.
Nice. What kind?
So they're Ausiliers. So it's Australian Shepherds mixed with Cavalier King Charles Spaniel. So it's like a mini Australian Shepherd. So it's Bentley, who the biggest bar at Maryland is called Bentley's. If you ever listen to Scott Van Pelt. So his name's Bentley. And then our youngest, we just got her. She's a girl, is Nelly. So I always tell people it's for the rapper, even though my girlfriend will kill me. It's not for the rapper, but that's what I think of.
Love that. All right. So this is my last question for you. And this is personally my favorite question. And it didn't come from me, I swear. Who is the best defender you ever faced? And why is it Troy Farkas?
Troy Farkas. Troy Farkas was, you ever know, like Troy Farkas was always bleeding from somewhere. Like he was never afraid to get hit. So it was like, as a defender, I remember like you were always super physical. Obviously you were, for me, you were 2 years older. So you're always like trying to beat up on the young guys. Obviously you were a smart defender. You wanted the challenge. Like I remember going into games, you wanted always to guard the best player. And it was kind of like you took offense to if we weren't. Like it was like boxing one, Troy's guarding. You're like, screw that. Like, I'm guarding this guy. Well, let's play man. And,
yeah.
So
I hated playing zone.
That about you. Like you knew your strength was defense and you took pride in
that. I loved playing defense. I'm the prototypical guy that you want on your team. Or no, the guy that you like don't want to play against, but want on your team.
Exactly.
I was a pest. I was annoying. I was super physical. And I remember you several times just like I was getting overly physical with you in practice, really for no reason, probably just to like rough you up or whatever, just because I took fulfillment in that. But you would ask me like, hey, can you lighten up a little bit? It's just practice.
I would have asked you that?
Yeah, a couple times.
I think I would have asked you that. I remember, we used to go at it, but I don't think I've ever told someone to let up.
Oh yeah. Well, Coach D, and I'll leave you with this story. I'm not sure if I ever told you this, but and this was before you like really blew up. So I graduated and then I just came back for open gym in the fall or something. And the U Albany coach was there watching you. And I think it was one of like the first coaches that came to watch you play. And so I came back and I'm still in good shape. Like I hadn't really lost any of that. And I wanted to guard you. Like I wanted to guard you with this coach there. And Coach D says, no, Troy, you cannot guard him while this scout is here. And so I've taken great pride in that ever since.
There you go. Forget who would have guarded me that open gym, but Appreciate that. Thank you, Coach D.
Gotcha. Kevin, thank you so much for joining me again. Super proud of you, everything that you're doing. You're doing big things on the court, off the court. Got a good dog, house, great team. Gonna get a nice contract here. So super proud to call you a friend all these years and to be along for the ride. So I look forward to coming to Atlanta soon, catching the game, and seeing you in person. It's good to catch up again.
You too, man. This was a lot of fun. Can't believe you got your own podcast now. You do a great job with it. You'll listen to a couple episodes. Keep it going. Hopefully get to be back on soon.